All right, I am excited to be doing just kind of an update to the Smart Denture Conversions protocol. And so I'm going to do this video a little bit differently than we've done in the past. I'm just going to roll right through it. I'll give explanation while I go, but I really just want you to see the flow of everything, and you'll kind of pick up on some of the, and I'll point out some of the nuances to our, what we call Smart on X 2.0, all right? So the first thing here is just to explain again, this is the patient. This is not a cast. I know it's a cast, but we are treating it like it's the actual patient because Smart Denture Conversions is done in the mouth. So pretend like this is in the mouth. This is the denture that we're going to be converting today. And so we are at the point where the implants are in the bone, the abutments are placed, but we're still open flap. So I'm going to treat this like it's an open flap protocol. So first thing here is, all right, abutments are in place. So we grab this silicone dam. This particular silicone dam has a vinyl side and a silicone side. So I'm going to use the vinyl to just press up against the multi-unit abutment and then indent into that vinyl. You can see that very clearly. So now I just punch right through those indentations. With our hole punch here. And now I'm going to keep the vinyl on for now, just because it's an easy way for me to remember that this side was down against the abutments. But you can see when you do that, it lines up real nice with those multi-unit abutments, okay? So I'm just gonna set that to the side for now. And now I'm gonna introduce you to a really cool innovation improvement that I've been waiting a couple years for us to finally launch this. All right, so this is what we call the pre-coated TiBase. You can see here I'm holding on to this stem, and then there's this shell of acrylic that goes over this TiBase. The walls of the TiBase are very vertical. There's no taper to them, and that is 1.5 millimeters tall right here. And this particular version, it does not have a separable fastener. It just has what we call an integral screw. So we're at the point where we get to just screw this in, and you'll see how this works. So we just screw it on. And we screw the next one on. And this stem just makes it easy for me to manage. And then the stem just separates away. That one I broke off. And then, so now they're all in place. I'm just going to break the stem away, break it off, break it off. It comes off very nice and easy. Let me just get this out of the way. So now all of those are in place. They're nice and secure. I'm now going to take this silicone dam, and remember how I left this vinyl on? Let me show you how I'm going to take the vinyl off. So I just stretch the silicone a little bit, and it's going to create a little wrinkle in that vinyl. A little separation there. So now remember, the vinyl was down against the multi-unit abutment, so this is the side that I want to go down against the bone. So we're just going to slip this over our TiBases. And we've got our silicone dam in place. And then we just put our silicone O-rings in place. And this helps secure the silicone dam to the patient, and it holds it down close to the bone and blocks out any undercuts that might be from the multi-unit abutments. All right, so now we've got those in place. Oh, it's down a little bit further than I wanted it. There we go. Wonderful. So now I just need to check to make sure that my denture, which I prepared ahead of time, because this is how I go to surgery. And you'll see here I chipped out the denture flange. This is a printed material, and that never bothers me because it's going to fill right in with my pickup, and also it's going to be contoured anyway after the fact. So I want to check to make sure that my denture is passive, and yes, it is passive. And I knew that by just using this burr from Comet. I trough out the intaglio to at least half the cutting depth of that burr. So now when I go to seat it, it seats right over those TiBases, not binding, and we're ready to go. All right, so if you just go to surgery with it already prepared, then there's no modification necessary. So we're ready to do our pickup. I'm gonna just put my polymer into one medicine cup and my monomer into another medicine cup. And now I'm just going to dump the polymer into the monomer, and I have 5 seconds to get this powder wet with that monomer before it starts getting clumpy, okay? Excellent. So now while it's nice and thin, I'm going to draw it up into my monoject syringe. And now I've got it loaded into the syringe. You see that wasn't very difficult. I can wait. I have plenty of time. It's going to be a 3-minute set time, so I'm not in any real rush here. So I'm just going to start adding it into the intaglio of my denture. And I wait until I get to kind of a Hershey kiss phase, which would be the stringy phase, before I put it into the patient's mouth. So this is Smart on X Rapid Set Pickup Acrylic, available at smartonx.com. And I love this acrylic because it is so fast and polishes so nicely. And the color is a very good match to the typical denture-based material. So now I've got this kind of stringy phase. You can see here I'm going to make a Hershey's kiss. At that point, I know I'm good to go into the patient's mouth. So I just do a little dollop on each of these pre-coated TiBases. And I'm just going to overfill the denture. And now this is always my joke. When it passes the Dairy Queen phase, or the Dairy Queen test, meaning it's not running when I invert the denture, I'm ready to go to the patient's mouth. Now here you have to use a little bit of creativity and just imagine that I'm seating this into the maxillary opposing dentition and then closing the patient into the intaglio. But obviously I'm working on this stone model representing my patient, but it is not an articulated cast, so I can't close the patient into the intaglio of the denture. So here you just have the patient close down, or you're holding the patient's chin if they're sedated. Just make sure that they stay in their occlusion, their best occlusion, and wait for this material to set up. Clinically, it'll take like 3 minutes. Here, benchtop, it's probably going to take us a good 5 minutes for that to be set. And so we'll probably use a little bit of movie magic to expedite this demonstration. Clinically, if you wanted to, you could use some instruments to help clean off some of this excess, which will make your laboratory work a little bit easier, less trimming. You can do that on the facial, but if you're having them closed down, then the lingual is not very accessible at this point, and I don't advise opening the patient up until it enters into more of the doughy / rubbery phase of the acrylic. So I'll just let that lingual go. The one downside to this material is it gets really hot when it goes from rubbery to set, and it's going to ramp up real fast. So you don't have to be irrigating the entire time, but when it's going from rubbery to set, just be prepared to irrigate the patient and keep the acrylic cool and to keep the tissues safe. The silicone dam also is very beneficial to providing a barrier to the bone or the soft tissue underneath it, but this material will get hot and it can transfer through that silicone, even though the silicone is a an insulating barrier. So here you see that we're getting more into that doughy, almost rubbery stage. At this point, I'd feel comfortable opening the patient up and starting to irrigate here. If you wanted to, you could even get rid of excess on the lingual at that phase. And we just wait for that to set up. Now, while we're waiting for it to set up, I might as well just explain what is different about this integral screw separable fastener as opposed to our original separable fastener. The original separable fastener separates into two parts. You've got the peak head and the metal threads. Here, the pre-coat material is actually polycarbonate. And the screw that's engaging the multi-unit abutment is actually integral with the polycarbonate shell. So it is also made of polycarbonate. With about 4 pounds of pressure, we'll be able to separate the polycarbonate threads from the multi-unit abutment. And then there won't be anything left in the multi-unit abutment. So you can treat it just like your average or conventional protocol where you might place your healing abutments to do your suturing. So you don't need the press-on caps in our original separable fastener. All right, so that's feeling pretty set now. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pretend like this is my periosteal elevator. And I'm just gonna get underneath this flange here. I'm going to give it a little bit of a twist and it'll pop right off. And I said 4 pounds of force. It's actually less than that. It was about 2 pounds of force. But if you look real close, you should be able to see the polycarbonate threads are in the TiBase, and there is nothing left in the multi-unit abutment. Awesome. So at this point, I'm just going to take the silicone off, and we could add healing abutments to the multi-unit abutments and then start suturing up. Meanwhile, in the laboratory, we're going to contour this and then create our screw channels. There's a little bit different approach to how we create the screw channels, so we'll go through that. I'm not going to talk you through my sequence for contouring the denture because I feel like I've done that sufficiently in other videos. So we're just going to kind of speed this section of the video up, and you can just watch the sequence, but there won't be much narration or much of me speaking as I go through it. So at this point, we're ready to create our screw channels. Now, again, this is an integral screw. So we've got the threads of the screw are protruding through that TiBase a little bit, but there's a little tiny hole. There's a little tiny hole there that will help guide us through. If we just hold it gently on that screw tip, then that hole in the screw tip is going to help us just guide right through it. You don't need to have any kind of drill guide for that. That one was making it a little bit difficult, so I just used my wax spatula to knock off the thread. The same thing there. All right, so now when I was polishing this or when I was contouring it, my burr slipped and I took out a chunk of that tooth, so you'll have to forgive me for that. But for the purposes of this demonstration, now I've got the pilot holes in there, and I'm going to go down that pilot hole with the axis drill just like original separable fastener protocols. And here you're looking to see that tip go through that TiBase. I'm going to bounce up and down a couple times. Just watch that come through again. And you can hear that difference when I'm going from plastic to metal. All right, so here's the cool thing about version 1 or version 2.0 versus version 1 is at this point, I'm pretty much done. That separable fastener is now completely out of there. That feels like it's free and clear. So now we're able to go back to the patient and screw this on to the multi-unit abutments. Well, I guess so. It is good to keep. I'm gonna teach this technique I learned from. So I learned this from Nick Egbert. I put my handpiece down at 5,000 RPM, and now I'm just going to go down into that TiBase and feel ever so gently for that fragment, and it just comes right out. Just a little bit remaining in there. Excellent. So now the test to make sure that everything's free and clear is just putting a screw in there. And if you see the threads come through the TiBase, then you are free and clear. Awesome. So we're going to go to the mouth and just screw it on down. And just like that, we've got a beautiful provisional prosthesis with screw channels, exactly what we'd expect to see in the final restoration. And again, you'll have to excuse me for this. We chipped that tooth in the process of contouring it, but that's mostly a weakness of this particular printed material, which is Denture. I'm not trash talking Denture, but for this purpose, I would never use this material. We just use these as demonstration because it's inexpensive. All right, so that is smart denture conversions with the integral screw. So I hope you enjoyed seeing that process and seeing the new silicone dam that we use, and the pre-coated parts, and the handles in the pre-coated parts just make it so nice and easy, very, very convenient to work with in a surgical and clinical setting. All right, thank you for joining us.